The Weekly Harvest, an in-depth look at the Brandon Wheat Kings and the WHL.
Washman trying to come up with it for Allison. Here's Allison right in front. He scores!
Brandon Junior hockey fans, you've waited 2 decades for this. In the league's 50th anniversary, your Wheat Kings are the champions.
And we are live. Welcome to episode 31 of the Weekly Harvest podcast. My name is Chris Falko, Director of Game Day Operations and Community Relations with the Brandon Wheat Kings, but also on-air announcer with Star FM and Q Country, the official home of the Weekly Harvest podcast. You know you can catch up on all previous 30 episodes online at qcountryfm.ca, as well as the Westman News Update podcast, always popular, but go and check that out. Joined as always, co-host Brandon Crowe. Crowe, how are you tonight, bud?
I'm good. You know, it was nice to get back into the swing of things. I just came off my 14-day quarantine after going to Toronto to officiate a wedding. So today was my first day of freedom. I went to the store. I went to the hardware store. I went to work at the golf course. I basically just went to every place around town just to see people and walk around because I felt like I was getting off house arrest. But
because you were
no, it's good
free.
to be back.
It's good.
It's good to be back. I'm a free man. You know, it's tough because you think we've been kind of in isolation / quarantine / working from home since March. But it doesn't really feel like it's being enforced until you leave the province and then come back and all your friends know you were gone and then call you out on it. Like if they see you driving somewhere, like, where are you going? You're supposed to be at home. So it's good to be free again. But, you know, summer's winding down, man. Like I slept with the windows open last night and it was cold this morning. So it's about that time to start thinking about hockey, and we'll touch on kind of when the home opener could be expected. But what's going on with you? I know it was a busy day. You had some back to work after some holidays, and the boys had some baseball tonight.
Well, you know, last week was one of those, it was like a potential 3-day work week. So it's like, well, I don't know, had some other stuff going on anyway. By the way, before I even talk about that, shout out to you last week. It was the first, so out of the 30 episodes, I can no longer say that I've been a part of every episode because had to be an old man and then call in with a doctor's note that day. But kudos, because I had a lot of fun listening to your interview with Jeff Odgers. If people have not heard that yet, I encourage you to go back and check it out. But a solo Brandon Crowe probably was just even better without me because I was just enthralled. I thought it was really good there, bud. But no, had a great week off. Even all that aside, back to work today. It was kind of weird, honestly, though, going back to work after a week off when last week that announcement came that we kind of thought for a while was going to happen. I mean, we talked about it on the podcast. We were optimistic that at best that the season would start like they planned to in October, and now we know that that's not the case. So when that came down and I wasn't in the office to kind of, you know, hear it with everybody else officially, I kind of just was like, okay, I put in the back of my mind. I knew that, you know, going in today again, things were going to be different because even things we were trying to get ready for now pushed back a little bit further. So it's just another curveball on the season, but it's not one that was totally unexpected.
Yeah, I think if you're watching this and you see me looking to my right, sidebar, my wife has decided to adopt another dog, big chocolate lab named Hemi, and he's decided he's going to sleep on the floor while I do this, and he is just snoring. Like,
oh, look at him. See, this is going to get viewers.
But it's so loud. Like, it sounds like there's a truck driving by. But to put this into perspective, since quarantine, since the season got canceled on whatever it was, March 13th, my wife has now brought home 8 + 7 is 15, 16 animals to this farm. So we need to get back to work because I'm running out of room.
How many chickens are you up to now?
Well, 8 chickens, 7 cows, 2 dogs, and a cat. It is a zoo, man.
How does the new dog get along with Howie? With the other dog?
The 2 dogs get along pretty good.
Yeah.
They're identical. They're chocolate labs. This one's just a little older. They follow each other around the farm, and you know, we got him here in an adoption, and you know, we hope to give him the last handful of years of his doggy life, just living the dream out here on the farm. So, but he's just snoring. Like, my God, stop it! Go away.
It's not being picked up, and then even so, people will be totally fine.
I think I can feel the floor like vibrating underneath me. But anyway, getting back to work now. You touched on it. The announcement coming out last week. It started with some rumors. Now, I tweeted it out. There were some reports being leaked out that the Ontario Hockey League was going to push things to December 4th. Now, for whatever reason, I thought that all three leagues would be in coordination when they sent out these kind of health-related press releases. They weren't. Ontario came out first and pushed it to December 4th. The Western Hockey League followed a couple days later. The official word, scheduled start Friday, December 4th. Now, that remains up in the air. Again, they expect and plan and hope to play 68 games and 4 rounds of playoffs, even if the season starts December 4th. Now, obviously, lots has to happen between now and then, and we've seen the last couple of weeks, especially in Brandon, the numbers aren't great when it comes to COVID, but December 4th, that's basically 2 months after the original start date. They still plan to get a full season in. You've been in the office. I talked to Rich a little bit. What's the mood like at the rink in regards to the delayed start?
I mean, it's obviously not news that anybody wanted to hear. But like I said, it's not like it was unexpected either. I mean, everybody thought it was going to be a little bit later than October. This also changes a few things just in terms of course, like how they prepare. I mean, there's already a number of even publicized, but like some private ice times that, guys are getting working in different groups. And this changes the whole timeline as well as what would normally happen at this time of year, which is the guys who are either, on already NHL drafted or get invited to the camps. This is about when they start to leave and they're doing all that. And then, as you know, sometimes the players, we don't get back until even after our home opener or into the season, depending on the situation. One example this year would be like Luka Burzan, right? He's in kind of the same spot as like what we were dealing with Ty Lewis last year, especially like, does he get sent back? Do we have another year of junior? Is he going pro? There's a number of question marks like that. So now this puts that in a question as well, because again, if the NHL and the AHL, if they start as well, as they're hoping to be around December, then maybe this will line up better with that as well. So October was, always kind of more, I think, of just an ideal dream that it was only going to be a 2-week delay, that, we could somehow get away with that. But I mean, the writing's been on the wall for a while. I mean, everything's been pushed back. All the medical experts talking about how long this really is going to last and, how we're going to have to deal with this going forward. So I think everybody was fully expecting it. It was just more disappointing, like we kind of said, right? So, but
yeah,
again, it's one of the weirdest parts, to be honest, is like in all the years, well, I've been there for a handful of years, really, but my years with the Wheat Kings, like this is already the longest off season because of just the way it was happening. And then now, like I said, coming back after just like the 10 days or the week and a bit off around Canada Day there, now it's like, hey, there's still like another 3.5 months until we actually drop the puck in the regular season. So
how many animals am I going to have by December 4th?
You guys are going to have to fill an arc right away. There's going to be a visible arc from Verdun to Brandon. That's going to be a big crow on the side. We're going to have to label it. But that was the reality kind of going back today. I was like, this is now another off season that we were just entered into with that news last week. So again, all the stuff that we're working on is stuff that we can keep that we can keep working on. Like there is work to be done, that there's always things to be updated as the fans know. And another big thing too is the fact that last year when we started, fans came in and there was a home opener, brand new Jumbotron with the LED ring, everything's HD, looks amazing. That thing was installed a week before the home opener last year, so we did not have time to really do much with it. So now, at least honestly, like the time that we've spent just a lot of it is messing around, just testing, just getting videos down, like just having some fun with things that we would never have time to do. That's what I've been spending a lot of time doing. Now I just have more time to do that because, talking to sponsors, keeping them updated, talking to season ticket holders, just relaying the message about what's going on. But besides that, we're entering another basically off season. So it's going to be a while, but again, it wasn't completely unexpected, right? So, and there was some good news today, which was really nice. So if I had to come back and at least think about that, we got to announce the signing, which I didn't even hear about before I left. I didn't get the update where that was. But so we got to announce the signing today, which is always a lot of fun.
And this one is one that I think a lot of fans were keeping an eye on because around the Western Hockey League and the CHL in general, the import draft sometimes can be a bit of a mystery. What are you getting? Will they report? Will they sign?
And they can be absolute game changers in terms of
Ivan
what they
Provorov,
bring, right?
Like Yuri Patera. It's amazing. You really don't know.
Buki was one of my favorite imports in my first couple of years. That guy was just fun to watch. Like the imports bring a lot.
Back in 2010, Tony Reala he assisted on arguably one of the biggest goals in Wheat King franchise history. And we talked to Jay Fair about playing with that young Finnish import. And so Brandon they had 2 potential picks because you can have €3 to start. Now, of course, Marcus Kelly is slated to come back. He is signed with Vegas, and they have moved their farm team to Henderson, which is in Nevada. And they did announce the American League plans to start around the same time. So we'll see what happens there. But they only made 1 pick. Darren Ritchie and his staff taking 17-year-old Russian defenseman. First Russian defenseman since Ivan Provorov. His name's Yaroslav. And this is where you and I were discussing beforehand. It's either Busagin or Besigin or Bizigin or something along those lines. We haven't had a chance to ask him. Hold on.
We should maybe try this out here. Let's try it out. What number? So he's going to be a defenseman. So we got to give him a number.
It's got to be a low one. Schneider's 2. Lambos is 3. We could probably give him number 5.
Okay.
Let's go with 5.
Number 5? Okay. So let's try it out here. Wheat King goal scored by number 5, Yaroslav Bezygin. Do you like that?
And then the clip of Sheldon Cooper on Big Bang Theory saying Bazinga when he scores.
I don't know if I like Bezygin or Bizygin. I'm going to try Bizygin. Wheat King goal scored by number 5, Yaroslav Bezygin.
Now, it doesn't roll quite like the first one.
Yeah. Bezygin. I kind of like that hard G. When he gets here, we'll have to ask him, of course.
Yeah.
But for now, I think that we should go with Bezygin then.
I like it. One of my buddies and longtime Wheat King fan. I mean, this guy, if you cut him open, he's bleeding black and gold. Kirk Fraser. He worked with Greg Sherriss in the production room for a while. He's born in Brandon, loves the Wheat Kings. He texted me today when the team announced the signing and said, good luck with that one, referring to the name and being on radio. And I said, this guy, this Besigin is like John Smith compared to the guy that the Raiders have drafted and signed. Now, I wish that I could show the listeners and the viewers this kid's name, because to spell his first name, it's Uladzilau is his first name. So his name is like Uladzilau. It's unbelievable. So I feel bad for Trevor Redden, although unfortunately this kid is in the Wheat Kings division. There's going to be some tough names moving forward. But all joking aside, this young 17-year-old was 39th pick, played last year in a major junior affiliate of the KHL. 5 points in 25 games. He's 6'2", 170, and he's a 2003 born. So now he's signed and eligible to play with the club, along with Marcus Kelly and Kelly. So by the looks of it, he's a pretty skilled guy. He had 21 points in 24 games at the U17 level, and then in 8 games playing under 18 in a bit of a call-up role. He had 11 points in 8 games. So seems a little offensive, pretty decent size, 6'2", 170, and he's a young guy. So you could get a couple of years out of him. So we'll see whether we get an Ivan Provorov or, maybe something similar. You hate to already put the comparisons, but when you're Russian and you're a defenseman, hopefully they don't put him in jersey number 9.
Yeah.
I feel like that's just setting the bar way too high.
Yeah. No, I've been told specifically by hockey management, don't say that. don't set the bar at Ivan Provorov just because he's a Russian defenseman. But you're right. When you hear that in the Wheat Kings, that's just gonna be the first thought now because of Provy. Speaking of which, have you been really watching? I mean, I haven't really talked to you a whole lot in the last few days here. Have you been fully engulfed in hockey like I have since all this has come back?
I made the tweet, and it actually got a lot of love. I was just being funny, but I tweeted that. Back in March or June or whatever it was, after spending all the time I did outside, I said to somebody, I said, you know what? I haven't watched a whole lot of TV. I haven't watched much Netflix. We don't have cable out here. I said, I have hardly turned my TV on during this pandemic. Well, then the NHL started back up, and I have watched pretty much every minute that I could of every game that I haven't had something else to do. I've been absolutely hooked. Teams that I don't normally watch, I've just been hooked. It's been fascinating. And with our guest tonight in Lindsey Gullett, working for the Oilers Entertainment Group, he kind of gives us an inside look into the bubble from a production standpoint. So I've been hooked. I've watched a ton of hockey. I got my hot tub going up here, running now, and so I've got the laptop set up, streaming games while sitting in the hot tub. It's an absolute dream. Not to scar the viewers or the listeners that just had to picture that. Kind of looks like a pierogi floating in a boiling pot of water. It would be the way I would describe it. But I've been loving the hockey, and it's been awesome to have something on TV.
Yeah, it has been a lot of fun, and I mean, I think we've had this discussion before. I don't know if it's on the podcast or not, but as you kind of work in hockey and get to know these guys as they kind of move on, especially before working in hockey, like I had like my favorite teams, but now like you learn to cheer for people, right? And the players that you want to follow. And luckily there's a lot of Wheat Kings that are still kind of throwing throughout a lot of those series that was fun to watch. But even ones that, you're right, had no connection, did not care, normally would not watch the series, didn't matter. I was just glad that it was back. It was just, and it wasn't like I was sitting here all day watching it back to back, but the fact that there was like 5-6 games on and the TV could just kind of be on all day and I could do things and come back and there was still something there to just live happening that was, meaningful as much as it can be these days, right? Like, I don't know. I've same thing. I've been hooked. I'm glad that it's back. And if anything, that kind of got me more excited too, thinking about when we do return and about what that's going to be like, because especially leagues like ours that are in the smaller communities, it's going to be a part of the healing process. It's going to be a therapeutic thing coming back to the Wheat King games. Even if at first, and we know it's not going to be 100% capacity to start, whenever it does happen, hopefully now December, it's not going to be at 100%. It's got to be probably 50 or hopefully higher, and adjustments will be made and they'll be growing. But by the time it starts to get there, already, it's going to be like this sense of coming home for people, saying hi, like, can't wait.
Yeah.
Just can't wait for it to be that feeling here again, right? And just kind of holding on to that.
One of the perspectives that I, maybe didn't appreciate was how much, especially in small town southwestern Manitoba, how much having hockey on TV and more so the Winnipeg Jets changes the mood. Now, let me set the table here for you. No pun intended. So prior to me going to Toronto, I mentioned that I'd been working part-time out at the golf course just to kill some time. And working in the mornings, you get that kind of senior crowd that come in for coffee and breakfast and whatever. And before I went to Toronto, all the talk all morning long was COVID. COVID this, COVID that, doom, gloom, cases, testing, blah, 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 wear a mask. It was starting to get draining. And I noticed it every table. It didn't matter where I went. People reading the paper, scrolling through their phone. Everyone was talking about COVID. Anyway, I go to Toronto. I come back. I go to work today for the first time in 2 weeks. Hockey's back. Man, the golf course clubhouse today was buzzing. Everyone was talking about hockey. Did you see the Leafs? Did you see the Leafs blow the lead and then come back and lose the series? The lottery's tonight. Vegas, do you see White Cloud scored? Do you look at this, look at that. There's highlights on the TV, and the mood was so different. And it's not just a male hockey fan thing. Even the women were talking about it. And they were talking about golf being back and tournaments on TV and the Blue Jays again. And it just felt different and it felt normal. And I think people sometimes forget how important sports can be as a distraction from the negative side. And I think for me personally, that's been a big mood booster for me, especially today when I really felt it when, members of the community that I live in just seemed to have some more life to them, talking about, the Jets blew it and the Leafs blew it. And it just felt normal again. So to get back to Wheat King hockey and have them, I used to get annoyed when I'd go into Tim Hortons or I'd go into A&W and the guys would say, what's wrong with the Wheat Kings power play? Or why is Dave Lowry putting this guy with this guy? It used to drive me nuts. I am begging people to ask me about the Wheat Kings now because it just means that things are getting back to normal.
I think that we just found the quote of the podcast right there. The Leafs blew it and everything felt normal again. I love that. So in the background here, I'm just going to move this a little bit and see if I can do it. Okay, so this photo right here, for people who are watching live on the YouTube, it is a picture of me and my best friend Al, who is a diehard Leafs fan. And I turned, as we talked about the podcast before, into a big Ottawa Senator fan after the Winnipeg Jets initially left. So like the late 90s through the early 2000s. We actually flew out to Toronto to go and see that picture there was taken at the Hall of Fame with the Stanley Cup. We saw a game out there, went into enemy territory, cheered for the Sens at the ACC. Sens lost, but it was still a great trip. Anyway, anytime that anything with the Leafs happen, it brings us closer. I haven't talked to him in like months. It was months, and I feel bad. And then this happened, and my first text to him after all this time was just busting on the Leafs. And we've been talking now for the last couple of days again and making plans for next week. So like it's that sense of like I don't know. It's just it's so good to be back and like what it means and just that whole sense of normalcy, right? And that's what we keep talking about, just striving to get back to that. So even if it's in a bubble, and the NHL's been having some fun with it. So, and you're right, even if fans can't be in the stands, at least literal fans. Did you see what the NHL did? By the way, they're having great fun with like all the with everything they're doing with the 0 fans in attendance and the actual fans, like the metal fans in the stands. But like what it's doing for the community, just to be people talking about it, like you mentioned out there. Same thing. I was out at the campsite this past weekend, out in Surrey doing actually, by the way, the Surrey campground, it's fantastic this year. People are obeying the rules and like enjoying themselves. It's been really nice. Unfortunately, some stupid theft happened out there. So by the way, I heard that in Crime Stoppers just last weekend. If anybody in the area knows anything about that, make sure that that you report. A number of things got stolen. It's such an awesome area. It really made me mad. Anyway, awesome kayaking out there. I forgot where I was going with this. I started talking about Surrey. But, we're sitting around the campfire, and that's all, again, people just, it was COVID talk for a bit, but then it quickly turned into hockey talk and then turned into baseball and other sports. And just, it was that sense of, okay, let's just talk about something positive and everybody have their own opinions and everybody had a great time. So it's getting people back to that mind frame. And we talked about this before too on the pod, I think, and it's really important people to remember all the effects that COVID has, not just as itself, but the mental aspects on everybody else that doesn't or does still get it. This whole living with a cloud over your head is not easy for anybody in a lot of different industries, and it's affecting everybody differently. Everybody has different kind of clouds over their heads that, at varying degrees that you just really don't know. So to get anything to get their minds off of it, myself included, like we've talked about this, like this is our livelihood, this is what we do, right? And again, here we are entering another 3.5 months before we can get back to doing like what we want and love to do. Like this isn't easy. Like this is mentally tough on everybody. So just to get that back, just for us to be striving towards that, it means a lot, and it's been great. So yeah. With all
that's
that
why
news,
I like doing this. That's why I like doing this. And today it was unfortunate you got tied up in some meetings, and with the busy schedule of our guest in Lindsey Gullett, I had to quickly grab him today. We had you like fishing and I like fishing. This was my analogy to you when I texted you yesterday. We were talking about our guest this week, and I said I have 4 podcast fishing lines in the water right now for guests, and none of them are biting right now. And the ones that were biting, we're making the plans very difficult regarding the schedule. So we do have a couple of guests coming up in the next couple of weeks. We're going to have the voice of the Saskatoon Blades, Les Lazaruk, joining us next week. He has a great story about being the voice of the BU Bobcats for CKLQ. I will get him to tell it. If you've never heard it, Falko,
no,
it is absolutely hilarious what happened.
Les was at Q?
Yeah, Les worked at Q for a handful of years before he went to Winnipeg to really start his career. But he was so I'm not sure who the Wheat King guy would have been at the time, but Les was the Bobcat play-by-play guy for hockey and basketball and whatever else. And he tells a couple of great stories. So cliffhanger, he's got a good one. He'll join us next week.
And by the way, just while we're talking about that, people who just don't know that much about Les Lazaruk, who've never heard the away broadcast in Saskatoon, he's just a great guy. Like, I'm just excited to talk to Les just about a lot of different things, but that story. But go on, yeah, because all your fishing lines, you've set us up now for at least a few episodes.
Yeah, Peter Labardius, who we all know loves junior hockey, loves hockey. He works inside the bubble now on the Flames radio broadcast. Because of their media availability today, he couldn't join us. He had like a 6-minute window, so we couldn't get him this week, but we're going to get him on in the next couple of weeks. And then some of you may know Julie Stewart-Binks, who started at CTV in Regina, went on to Fox Sports with Jay and Dan, and then ended up back at Barstool, and now is on a separate sports network in New York. She's kind of the first female sportscaster trailblazer that's kind of gone on and done some independent work. She's absolutely hilarious to follow on social media. She loves sports, and she loves junior hockey. Unfortunately, she's a Pats fan, but she has said she'll jump on and join us as well. So the next couple of weeks are really looking good for the Weekly Harvest. Tonight, we're going to throw it over in just a couple of minutes to Lindsey Gullett, who, for those of you that don't know, grew up in Wawanesa, played junior for Neepawa and Dauphin in the MJHL, and then went down to play some Division III college hockey. Came back to Verdun to help run their business operations early when the Verdun Oil Capitals just got an expansion team into the MJHL. Just 2 years later, he was hired by the Manitoba Moose. And then just 2 years after that, he was hired into the Edmonton Oilers organization, where he is basically the head of production for all of their videos, sound, music, everything. He is the main big dog in Edmonton, and he has played a major role in what we see on TV every night from Edmonton. So he was kind enough to join us today. We'll chat with him in a little bit. And speaking of guests, some sad news today about one of our guests from earlier on in the podcast. It's the official final day of work for Bob McKenzie at TSN. He's going off into retirement.
The Bob
what
father.
A sad day that is.
Done full time. That man is, when you talk about, if you just name like just the term hockey insider, that began with Bob McKenzie, right? Like, he was the hockey insider. His legacy is indelible. There's a Mount Rushmore. It's one man and one man only, and that's Bob McKenzie. So we definitely wish, along with everybody else that you've seen of the outpouring across media. I mean, he was so good to us when he came for the Sportsman's Dinner. Like, for him to take his time afterwards and sit down with us and talk for us for that long, and then talk for us even longer after the microphone stopped, like, he was a fantastic human being. And I mean, wish him nothing but the best spending the time at the lake.
So you can go back and listen to that episode with Bob McKenzie if you missed it, or if you're just joining us as new fans of the Weekly Harvest podcast at anywhere you get your podcast, Spotify, Apple, wherever. Q Country has website as well. There's a link via the Week Kings page. So you can catch all the episodes, including the one with Bob McKenzie, as we bid him farewell full time. He will be back doing some spot work for TSN, but he's going to coast off to cottage life up in Muskoka and sip some margaritas out of his margarita machine. So we wish him the best. And before we throw it over to Lindsey, we talked about small towns. We talked about the effect of COVID. Now, certainly this last week has been tough for everybody in Southwest Manitoba. The tornado that touched down just south of my place here, it was about 10 miles south of my place. I wasn't home. I was driving and wasn't quite close to town when it came through, but certainly took the lives of two young people from down in Melita, and certainly just the outpouring of support I've seen from this community and communities in the area and Brandon and everywhere else. We certainly know what Westman's all about when it comes to stepping up and supporting one another, and certainly we want to wish everybody involved, our condolences, and certainly a tip of the cap to my guys on the Wallace District Fire Department. I couldn't respond to that call, and you guys did a great job. I know that there's a number of guys, not only here but everywhere, that put in a ton of work and time to make sure our community's safe, and those guys really stepped up on the weekend. So certainly a tough time, but again, we talked about it. Sports can help, and that's what we're here to do every week. So with that, you got anything else, Chris?
No. I mean, you just mentioned that tornado, and I'm glad you did, because I had that on our final notes as well. And I know that you mentioned, of course, the two teens. I mean, your heart breaks for that story.
Oh.
Also, just want to say, though, that, sending well wishes to the 55-year-old who was also injured and taken by Stars Air Ambulance. Yeah. And a shout out to Stars Air Ambulance for all the fantastic work that they do in situations like that. And also to the Storm Chasers, who made a great post today about the people who were trying to almost vilify them for, posting the big pictures of that, knowing, what it caused and being deadly. And they kind of explained that they're not only there to get those shots, but they're also the ones on the scene that are helping report what's going on to everyone else. And so, I mean, shout out to them and the role that they played after as well in helping get the local fire department to where they needed to be. No, that whole situation was just unbelievable. Normally we go to Oak Lake too for like quite a few weekends, and friends who were on the beach taking photos of it across the lake, and we were here at home that night. So No, that was something else. No, I don't think I have anything else to say. I just wish that I could have been around here earlier. But like I said, my first day back at work today, so there were some meetings I couldn't quite get out of for this time frame. But even me, I haven't had a chance to listen to this, honestly. So I'm excited. I'm just going to push play here, and I'm going to sit here, and I'm going to watch it as well. We're not going to come back on live after, so we'll talk to you again live next week on episode number 32. Like Crowe said, though, you can catch all the previous episodes online at qcountryfm.ca. Big thanks to Q Country FM for hosting it there, as well as remember, you can listen to Q Country FM 91.5 FM, streaming on Alexa, Google Play, Westman TV channel 600. You can catch them there as well, and of course, always streaming at qcountryfm.ca. Crowe, have yourself a fantastic week. Enjoy the new animal editions. And so,
Yeah.
okay, well, you know what? We're gonna have to start a new trend here. So I'm gonna write this down. You're at 16 animals right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, 15.
15.
15.
Let's get the count right
16,
here.
We have 18 animals on this farm. Yeah.
As of August the 10th. Okay, so Brandy Crowe, if you ever do listen to the full podcast and you get we're about halfway through here, we're going to try to add to that number by next week. So good luck. Okay, here it is, the interview from earlier today, Crowe and Lindsey Gullett. We'll talk to you guys next week. Cheers.
See ya. This is going to the right spot. All right. Episode 31 of the Weekly Harvest. Our guest this week, one of the busiest guys in the National Hockey League right now, especially in the Western bubble. He's a Manitoba guy, a former Verdun Oil Capital employee, former Nipawin native as a player, Lindsey Gullett. And Lindsey, I know it's your day off today, and so I hate to take time where you could probably be napping, but what's it been like the last couple weeks for you?
Yeah, it got busy really quick there, right from when everything started kind of came together, and Edmonton all of a sudden was the front runner, and then all of a sudden it landed right on our laps, and it was just go ever since then. So it's a bit drinking from a fire hose some days, but credit to the NHL. It's an unbelievable event, and for it to be going as smoothly as it is going in such a short amount of time that it really came together, and it's pretty impressive.
So with your new title being manager of event presentation, not only for the Edmonton Oilers, but for the entire entertainment group, prior to COVID, what exactly did your job title mean? What did it all encompass?
Yeah, so for a regular Oilers game, most of it is we're scripting the game start to finish from the time doors open till it ends, and we're communicating with sponsorship, our foundation, basically the organization as a whole, make sure that our company messages are being put out there, and then as well as our TV timeout promotions, all that stuff, we get scheduled, make sure we're hitting the right sponsorship elements for the game. And then on top of that, videos, all of our Oilers specific videos, if there's any player milestones happening that night that we need to recognize, just being on top of our music and coordinating with our crew and our lighting and all that stuff, and just having it all come together. So a little bit of everything, but together there's a lot of moving parts, and it kind of all comes together, and we do our best to assist the game that unfolds in front of us.
So with when the NHL was going through the process of determining which host cities they were going to do and trying to determine how this all played out, were you a part of, maybe some of the discussions from the Oilers Entertainment Group into how you and your team were going to be able to make this somewhat normal for the players and for the viewers?
It was kind of two-part. In terms of putting the Hub City bid together, our executive team, I think, did a tremendous job. I think they all came together. That was kept at a pretty high level, which understandably dealing with the NHL and the city and the province and everything else going on. So that was kind of left in their hands. When it came to actually the NHL side, because the league didn't know where it was going to land, we would have these weekly Zoom calls essentially with everybody from across the league talking about what makes sense for a home team home game, what makes sense for and like what elements should we be including for each team and whatnot. So before even the cities were announced, all the teams started collecting their videos and their music. So for us, it was our open video and our period prompt videos and any specific hype videos that we might have. We got those all together. then it's our anthem recording or any special songs that we have, our win song, goal song, power play song, anything like that. We put it all into a folder, and we filled out these one pagers that kind of described every single element. So, when we announce a goal, do we have an organ that plays along? Is there sound effects that are included in it? Literally everything. And every single team did that was eligible for this qualifiers round. And so all of a sudden I'm putting that together for Edmonton thinking, this will go off to somewhere else and I'll chip in with my 2 cents to help them along for Edmonton stuff. But then all of a sudden it all came into us. So myself and our representative from the league, he's done, we kind of started combing through it, and we had some other staff at OEG as well. And all the video content, all the music and everything, we've got pages and pages on each team just of their elements. So, just kind of all came together, and now we're just trying to do our best to execute every team's home game.
Is it weird? I got to ask. I mean, it's hard to tell because I'm watching on TV and the sound effects, whatever the broadcast is portraying, but being in the arena and I've been up and toured around where you sit kind of up in the corner in the press box area.
Yeah.
There. Is it weird with nobody in the building? Like, are you guys actually funneling the crowd noise into the building, or is that just something we hear at home?
So it's a bit of both. So at first in the exhibition games is when they were starting to play with that. At first it was strictly audio that was being pushed to television, so that it was not in the bowl. And then they trialed it for one of the exhibition games, actually putting the crowd noise in arena, and they actually have EA Sports there doing the crowd noise. And to be honest, watching it almost brings a little sanity back to you, because you're at first when you were watching the game and there was no crowd, you really are hearing every rebound, every stop, every word that is said, really. And you add that crowd noise in, and the people that are running that, I think, have been really on top of it. There's a hit and it's a ooh, and then there's a chance somewhere on one end and it's like and it's I find myself reacting like as I would a fan, and I would say that the sound guys are right on top of that as well.
Well, I wasn't sure how that all worked, because I feel like we're hearing it at home, but are the players hearing it too? Because it has to be weird for them to play through that, but especially for a guy like you, who your whole job is entertaining the public, right? I mean, your whole job is to make sure that the 15 or 20,000, however many Rogers Place sits, is entertained and gets their money's worth when they leave the building. So now that you're not really entertaining fans, what was your guys' kind of goal or mantra heading into this? Like, who are you really doing this for? Are you trying to make the players feel like they're at home, or what are you guys aiming to accomplish on a game-to-game basis?
Yeah, honestly, that's a great. We've had a few situations come up where like, oh yeah, like what we would do in a normal game, this doesn't make sense. Like even how you announce the anthem, it's like, fans, please join us, or please stand and welcome. And it's like, oh, we're not asking anybody to stand. We're just introducing who the anthem singer is. So little things like that. But for one, it is an NHL event, so it's their league, their event, and us as OEG members or staff members, we're supporting them. So really they're taking the lead on this, and so whatever they're trying to accomplish, we're supporting them the best as we can. So their goal for this whole thing was, it's a made for TV event. So a lot of things that we're doing, like we're still running music during TV timeouts just for the sake of being background noise and for kind of some audible familiarity potentially for the players, I guess, so it doesn't seem weird that all of a sudden there's no music being played, right? But our league representative, John Baccaro, he is in constant communication with the broadcast truck. And so he's either talking to them, asking them what they're talking about, who they're talking about, and then we're trying to respond to that in bowl, whether that's what visuals we're putting up. So if they come back from break talking about, Patrick Kane, we have Patrick Kane visuals ready to go to put onto the board, so that they come in with their camera, kind of come off the boards that is showing a graphic of Patrick Kane and then down into the face-off of him taking the face-off. So it's very much made for TV. We do a lot of, like, we've done a few things like during intermission where we'll test a video quick or something like that. Whereas normally during intermission we are jam packed with elements and things like that we're doing. Everything's constantly live. We have moments now that we're not live, so if we need to check something quick, we almost can do that, which is kind of nice also.
Yeah, I think you guys have done a tremendous job considering the circumstance. I mean, I find myself watching far more hockey now than I ever have, probably because A, you miss it, and B, there's not a lot else going on in the world. But for you, a guy with a young family at home, you are allowed to leave the bubble, right? Now that brings a lot of questions. People are saying, well, it's a bubble. I thought everybody had to stay in. Can you tell us a little bit about how they keep that bubble so secure when guys like you and the hotel workers and that are allowed to leave at the end of the day?
Yeah. So without obviously getting too much into it, but first of all, I'll say, like, again, for the time frame this came together, I think the NHL and even and some of our OEG staff that were in charge of the logistics of this, it's just it's mind blowing. I think for the general public, if they actually were to see all the thought process that went into it, so it's very impressive. So on my end, yes. So I consider, because I'm working from the press box, I'm literally in Rogers Place. I'm essentially working in the bubble, but my path of travel to get to the press box is a way that people that actually are in the bubble don't travel in. So we're taking a different elevator or different staircases and things like that to get up to where we work. Whereas like people in other parts of the press box we don't really cross paths with that are in the bubble, like the office officials or some of the broadcast members, we don't really cross paths with them. So and even like, so when we walk in the morning, we have to get tested every single day. So we go down and everyone that's not in the bubble but is working there, they get tested in one spot, and then all the players and staff are being tested in the other spot. So even though like there is staff coming and going from, say, the bubble, we really don't have any interaction with them.
Right.
And even our NHL staff, who are in the bubble, we are talking to them on headsets. So it's like, and we can kind of see them from afar and different things, but we aren't physically next to them. So it's actually kind of crazy, just how much interaction we have with them, but we don't physically actually aren't around them, I guess you could say. So they've thought everything out. It is really impressive, and I think the NHL just announced today again no positive tests through week 2, and it is honestly super impressive. Just this, given the scale of the event and the amount of teams that are involved and people involved, that how well it's been put together.
Yeah, it's shocking. I think a lot of people, one of our good friends, Brooks Bratton, works for Nashville. He was inside the bubble, and Brooks was kind of telling us the same story about how amazing it was coordinated, like finely tuned, well-oiled machine behind the scenes that the general public would just be absolutely astonished at how well it's being done.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly compared to other sports, whether it be the NBA or Major League Baseball, the NHL certainly put the right foot forward when trying to deal with this, but get sports back. Is it weird to think that, where you're at now, the Oilers are now out. So now you're you don't really have a dog in the fight. Not like you have, I guess in the situation, you probably had to stay relatively neutral, but the little part of you that was, pulling for the blue and orange, now you're kind of neutral. What is it weird now that Edmonton's gone and now you're kind of working for every other team?
Yeah, it is. The hockey person in me is just kind of, you're so used to just you're rooting for the home team. Like, we only work Oilers home games typically, so we're constantly reacting to our own stuff. If a goal happens for us, we're blowing our own goal horn. If we go on the power play, we're hyping our crowd up to go into a power play. Like, but now that it's a neutral game, like, I'm not gonna lie, when Chicago scored late in that one game against the Oilers, and we had to play Chelsea Dagger and give some sort of emphatic hype into their goal announcement, it's like, oh, okay, that sucked, but that's obviously part of the job. And what we're doing right now is that we're creating this neutral delivery for, as much as it's in Edmonton and Oilers fans are watching, Chicago fans are watching too, right? So we're kind of delivering that. But Yeah, I would say now that they're out, I don't know if I don't know if I have a favorite necessarily, but obviously with Zach Whitecloud in Vegas, you'd like to, and being able to witness his first goal last week there, it was pretty special. So obviously I'd love to see him and Vegas have success as much as they're a bit of a rival and whatnot, but personal success for him for sure. But whatever, I don't know, however this unfolds is going to unfold, and I think it's going to be some exciting hockey to watch.
Well, that kind of brings me to my next point. Westman and Western Manitoba is well represented inside the bubble, both on the ice, off the ice. Of course, Kelly McCrimmon, general manager with Vegas, and of course Ryan Craig, the assistant coach, and you go down the list, and Zach Whitecloud and Ryan Reeves and Braden Shen with St. Louis and Michael Furland in Vancouver, and you go up and down, and the Wheat King connections, the Westman connections. Of course, you got Joel Edmondson out in Carolina, playing in Toronto's bubble, and then of course off ice, including yourself and even some of the broadcasters. And it seems like everybody has a bit of a connection to Westman. Now, if I dug around this office somewhere, I'm sure I could find a Verdun Oil Capitals team picture with you in it. And it wasn't that long ago that you were in a position in the Manitoba Junior Hockey League doing what you're doing now on a significantly smaller scale with a significantly smaller budget. But looking back at it, it's all happened so quickly. How did your time in Verdun and your couple years in the Manitoba Junior League help springboard you kind of to where you got to now?
Yeah. So taking my wife and I at the time, now wife, when we were living back in the States still, and the opportunity came back to move closer to home and have that opportunity to get into sports. I think it was just one of those things that were like, it was an opportunity to come in and literally do everything. Working for a junior A team, like Verdun specifically, when that building was relatively new still, and the new franchise and everything. And being able to do social media and sponsorship and the marketing side of it, and work directly with the players and the coaches, and really just be able to dabble in all aspects of sports. And not knowing it at the time, you really got to understand what parts of it you liked and what maybe you didn't like as much. And I think that's, looking back, is probably the thing I'm probably most grateful for, because I think if I would have started at a higher level, I would have been forced into more of a specific role. Like if I would have got in with a larger organization, you would have been said, okay, you're ticketing. You only do tickets. And that would have been like, I don't know if I like this. This sucks. And then I would have had to maybe, try to go into something else or whatever. But because I was able to dabble in almost all aspects of it right away, I kind of knew what I liked to do. And so when the opportunity came up in Winnipeg, and it was specifically game presentation, it was cool because it was definitely like the music and the video and the atmosphere for the fans and creating a cool environment or whatever. And that was something I was like, hey, this is what I want to wrap my head around. This is what I want to focus on. So getting to that point, then it was like, okay, now I'm not making phone calls for ticketing, and I'm not doing stuff for sponsorship. They're just providing the information. I'm including that and then going to Winnipeg and doing that and getting that experience, and being in a building that was hosting an NHL team. You got to see it at the NHL level as well with the Jets and the job that they do. And then when the opportunity came up in Edmonton, it just kind of grew a little bit more, and the focus got a little stronger just with the way this building operates out here and how big it is, and just the ice projection elements and the just the grandness of this building. Like, you've been out here, it's when it's full and people are on their feet for an Oilers game, it's a pretty incredible thing.
It really is. I mean, I don't think people understand the size of Rogers Place. And I know that a lot of the TV viewers are seeing some of the, the drone footage from outside overhead, and it does look like a vast complex. But, people always ask me, what's the worst place to call a game from in the Western Hockey League? And my answer is always Edmonton. And they're shocked. And they go, why? It's a brand new facility. I said, the food's great and the amenities are great, and it's got the best popcorn in the Western League, but you can't see anything because you're so far away from the ice, because the building is so big. But you guys have such great technology to utilize, and certainly I know if you look back, you guys as a group won a number of awards as well, kind of in a sports video media multimedia type
absolutely
thing, wasn't it? So is that
Oh yeah. So the IDEA conference is it's an acronym for something, and if I had to say it right now, I'd probably butcher it completely. But it's basically all professional sports teams from football, NBA, MLB, all the big sports, including college athletics, NCAA. They submit. There's categories, so there's open videos and special ceremonies and different things like that. And you submit your content, and then one of the categories, which is kind of the over umbrella, is just called best overall video display. And I think it might be changing going this year into something else, but anyways, best overall video display. And what each team does is they have 5 minutes to basically compile snippets of every single thing that they think of that their show has to offer to provide. So it's snippets of our open video to a promo that we do really well, to our in-game host and how he's doing something, and perhaps how we're executing something in our anthem into something else. And you're trying to just put your best foot forward within this 5-minute video, and all teams do that. And I guess it's 3 years ago now, we won best overall hockey. And then if you win best overall hockey, you go into the category against the winners of MLB, NFL, NBA, etc. And we actually won that as well. So that year was pretty spectacular because it was very unsuspecting. We had no idea, no expectation that was coming, and all of a sudden win this award, and we're just like, wow, like maybe we need to step back here for a minute and just appreciate a little bit ourselves and what we're doing. The following season we won, which I guess technically was 2 years ago. We won best overall hockey again for the NHL, and then lost out to the Miami Heat for best overall in all sports. And then this year it's kind of been put on hold as everything kind of came to a pause. So yeah, we've been fortunate. We've had a very talented group here. Rich Myers, who was my old boss, who I came here to work for originally, he's gone here from the organization now, but he assembled a team to come into this Rogers Place with, and we're fortunate to have some very talented people that we can work with and put together some pretty impressive pieces and use the technology in our building to really give our fans a show.
Well, certainly being a small town guy, I actually owe you a lot because I had quit. I was done in hockey after the Melfort Mustangs went to the RBC in Portage. I was done. I said, you know what? I've had my fun. I'm going to go get a normal job, a 9 to 5, and move back to Manitoba and, live that small town life. And I was working for the city of Melfort, cutting grass, waiting for a job to open up. Yeah. And you reached out to me and said, I'm going to the Moose. Would you be interested in coming to Verdun? And I said no originally. And Dale Lewis, the president, called me about 14 times. And I was like, okay, fine, I'll do it. And so I did it. And all of a sudden it turned into where I got now. So if it wasn't for you, we would not be having this conversation right now. So.
Right. Yeah, it's funny. It's definitely, it's funny how things work, right? So you never know who you might run into or cross paths with. So
and it worked out because you hired me to replace you, and then I hired my soon-to-be wife to replace me.
Yeah,
that's how we met. So I mean, it's crazy.
Well, there you go.
It all worked out.
Yeah, exactly.
I got a couple more for you before we let you go.
For sure.
You got, of course, the NHL draft lottery coming up tonight. I'm sure you're going to be watching that eagerly.
Yeah.
But for yourself, I mean, being a small town kid, I mean, I know you played in Nipawin, you went and had your Division III college run. I mean, every kid's dream growing up in Wawanesa or Brandon is probably to be a Brandon Wheat King first, and then it's probably to play in the NHL. Now, you obviously, didn't get a chance to do either, but now you're in the NHL. When you think about it, is it really sometimes humbling to realize, man, I'm just a kid from Wawanesa, Manitoba, and here I am on the NHL stage?
Yeah, it is. I definitely have to, like, it's easy to get caught up in the work spot of this, like the work part. Obviously, it's a lot of hours. It can be stressful. I'm very fortunate to have the support of my family. My wife specifically is like right now I'm 12 to 14 hour days. She's basically a single mom, so having that support at home, she's a complete rock star. So you wouldn't be able to do any of that without the family support. And then so pushing all that aside, I guess when you do have all those stressful times and stuff and you take a step back, and like, I think I received a text the other day from one of my friends saying, hey, remember that time when you produced half of the entire Stanley Cup playoffs in 2020 or 2020 or something like that. I was like, kind of as a joke, and I was like, oh my goodness, like I couldn't. Yeah, like I think we did the math, and if all the games get played out here, it's like 80 some games if they go the distance, kind of thing in each series. And yeah, it is a little crazy to think about it sometimes. Just I guess coming from a small town and just jumping at opportunity and just being fortunate to meet the right people and talk to the right people and ask questions and whatnot, and just have a good rapport and build that network. But I will say, as much as sports entertainment, as you know, and being in sports and traveling and long days and everything else can be a grind. I always think growing up on a farm, which I did, and thinking about sowing or seeding and harvest in the fall. And I think about like, if this was farming, you're sun up to sundown and later. So I always think of our busy times as harvest. And I always just reference, we got a busy harvest coming up, whether that's around home opener typically or something like that. But you could say that the Stanley Cup playoffs and qualifiers is a busy harvest right now. So.
Well, certainly, I mean, if you had your choice, you could be doing what you're doing, or you could be back helping your dad, carrying heavy things and pulling wrenches and all sorts of things.
Yeah.
So, I think you got it pretty good, and hopefully moving forward, you can continue with the next season, whenever that may start, and continue to build on everything that you guys have done. We usually end our interview segments with a little rapid fire, a couple of quick ones, just to lighten it a little bit. Going back to your days growing up, minor hockey around Western Manitoba, what was your favorite rink to play in as a kid?
Oh, geez, that's a tough one. Honestly, at that time, probably Souris. Souris was brand new at that time. I remember that was kind of a big thing to get to go play on the new rink in the bigger ice surface. And and then of course eventually joining Southwest Cougars, it was kind of all became my home rink. So yeah, I'll say Souris.
Best MJHL rink to play in when you had your time in the MJ?
The very start of my career, I'll say it was OCN up in the PAW. The atmosphere in that building when I kind of caught the tail end of their peak up there, and it was a pretty neat experience just to play in front of the fans, and they were passionate and loud and everything else. That quickly transitioned into Portage, I think, just again, like their new rink. And I guess I caught the old rink still, but it was kind of the beginning of the Blake Spiller era, and he obviously has had a ton of success with that organization. So their fans have been pretty fortunate, and also it made for a tough building to play in.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, you did have a big hockey highlight at the Keystone. Did you not? Did you not play on that Nipawin team that played Team Belarus one year?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, that's right. We played them in an exhibition game there before their World. It was the under 16s or under 17s, I think, in Manitoba that was being hosted. So
did you win? Do you remember?
I will remember. This is kind of a funny side story. I remember coming in. We were playing that game, and actually Kim Davis, who was, I think, is he still the commissioner? I think he maybe just retired, is on his way out. I remember he came into the dressing room and gave us a bit of a speech, almost kind of thanking us for giving the Belarus team a game as they were tuning up for their tournament. But it was also a bit of a, let's have a clean one because these kids have bigger games to play for. And we know that you guys, obviously this is an exhibition game for you. Well, it was, I think halfway through the second period, one of their guys rolled one of our guys from behind head first into the boards. And of course the reaction is just, here we go. So there was actually a bit of a melee in that one, if I recall. I don't think it got too heated, but there was definitely some punches thrown and whatnot. So that was kind of funny, actually, how it went from this friendly, you can call it, into a bit of a dust up at one point. I think we did win in the end, but I remember there were some very talented kids on that team.
A couple more in our rapid fire segment. Lindsey Gullett, of the Edmonton Oilers. Lindsey, you're a senior ball. You've enjoyed a long career with the Wawanesa Brewers before moving on. I think you played a little bit in Alberta when you first got there.
Yeah, still playing out here.
Best diamond in the Southwest Baseball League to play
Oh, I'm biased. We had a great diamond for many years in Wawanesa. We were very spoiled to have some of the Seafoots, McGregors. My dad was a lot into the Cullens. Like we had a good baseball culture in that town with a lot of people that took a lot of pride in how that diamond was looked after. And so, and I think being able to host provincials a handful of times too spoke to that, just for the ball itself. I would say Clarny. Clarny had a great diamond as well, and I think I haven't been there for a couple of years, but I'm sure it's still in great shape. And I was just leaving Verdun when I know they had their diamond getting built there now, and I'm sure they've been able to get a few years under their belt to bring that diamond along as well. So, as sad as it is to see the MSBL, this is kind of off tangent, not really rapid fire response, but I love where senior ball is at right now is where I'm getting at. I love the amount of teams. I love the amount of quality young ball players that are being able to play. And I think it's exciting to see all the teams involved and the size of the league.
Yeah, the teams too. Like, at one point, communities struggled to get enough guys together, to play a team, and you had teams joining up with other towns. And now it seems like everybody is putting together a team, and there's, enough guys. Like, for example, this, Verdun probably has enough guys from around here to field two teams. Half of Verdun's, guys end up playing in Souris because there's not enough spots on the field to field enough guys. So it's certainly growing, and it's unfortunate that their season was cut short a little bit, but they are still playing around. Check it out if you're listening to this. There are a few games scheduled for the rest of this week in the Southwest Baseball League, including Verdun and Boisvin Game 2 of their playoff series, I think tomorrow night, Tuesday night, if you're listening to this on a different day. But last one for you, Lindsey. You've obviously got a busy stretch ahead. I know a lot of people have asked me, especially your old Oil Caps, billet, friends, family, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Are you still following the Verdun Oil Capitals? Do you pay any attention to the Manitoba Junior Hockey League, or have you moved on to bigger and better things?
No,
I get that a lot.
You know what? People probably are shocked at. I'll sometimes shoot people a text even and say oh, congrats on the win or something like that. And they'll be like, "What are you doing? Following us? Don't you have more things to focus on?" But honestly, that was I think a big part of growing up and anything. And I still like seeing who's doing well in the MJ or in the ball or seeing what young guy who are the young athletes from around the area that are kind of the AAA midget. I still have my Cougar pride, I guess you could say. I love seeing the success for those guys in that group, and the 03 group that is with some of the Yellowhead kids and Southwest kids. We had the privilege to coach in summer hockey a few years ago, and now they're all kind of coming into that late midget, early junior WHL stages. So it's exciting to see how these kids have developed, and I'm excited to hopefully see some of them as they come through Edmonton.
Lastly, growing up in Wawanesa, you had to, you and your family, your dad, I know your sister was into hockey as well. You probably came to a few Wheat King games. Who was your favorite Wheat King growing up to tie it all together?
Favorite Wheat King. You know what? Wade Redden. I remember him being really good. Peter Schaefer was another name that was a big name then. I'll also say Brian Elder, just because I remember he's now a Wawanesa resident, so it's a little I can be biased in saying that, but I just remember him as a goalie there, and getting it. I was fortunate. I got to tour the dressing room once after a game, and I remember meeting him, and he was very very nice to me then, and he probably doesn't even remember that, but it kind of obviously the impact that makes on a young kid. I think you remember that for a long time. So
that's a fantastic way to wrap up, Lindsey. Best of luck the rest of the way. I know you got a busy schedule. Thanks for taking time to do this. I know getting your story out is awesome. Westman, people love it. It's a feel good small town story. So congrats on all your success and best of luck moving forward.
Thanks, Brandon. Appreciate it.
That is Lindsey Gullett of the Edmonton Oilers. His official title, Manager Event Presentation at Oilers Entertainment Group. He's one of many behind the scenes inside the bubble in the Western Conference of the NHL playoffs. Episode 30, where you get your podcasts. Perfect.
Good stuff, Brandon.
Be sure to follow Q Country and the Wheat Kings on Twitter and Facebook for all your Brandon Wheat Kings news. Thanks for listening to the Weekly Harvest.